Yo, what's good? This was purely for the intro and I was not outside my room without a mask on. You see, I have a lot of thoughts and I figure there's no better way to do it than a video with lots of camera angle changes because I want to and I think it's kind of epic. So, I had a lovely idea that I could share a few things that I wish I would have known before entering college. It would have saved me a lot of turmoil because I had a lot of very near breakdowns throughout all of last year. And yes, I did end up just talking to my RA about it, but I would rather just tell you now because talking to RAs is scary sometimes. Before we get started, I'm gonna eat some s'more snacks. They're so yummy. Obviously this is not sponsored because I have 6 people following this channel, but man, they are yummy. First topic. Classes. There is no reason to take Civ immediately. You see, I did not know this. When I was signing up for classes, I just kind of picked one because I'm like, oh, Civ, is a required course. I'm just gonna take that. You don't need to do that. And granted, I took American Civ and that went really well for me, but most people end up just doing their Civ during study abroad. So if you want to study abroad, just do that because there's a lot more spaces open for Civs abroad than Paris astronomy or something like that. Second thing, if you can, please try to make study groups. I am the queen of study groups, and I can say with certainty that if I didn't have study groups for some of my classes that I had last year and as well as this year, I probably would have died. So even if you don't know the people in your class that well, chances are they're also looking for a study group, and there's no better way to either mutually fail in a class or all succeed is with a study group. Get a study group, get a study group, get a study group. Okay? Fridge can, bye. If you can, please go to office hours. Sometimes teachers get very lonely at office hours, and sometimes they just want a friend. Especially in classes where I wasn't doing that well. If I go to study hours and maybe I learn something, maybe I don't, but at least the teacher will see that I'm trying my best to do better, and perhaps they will take pity on me. Now, this is no pressure, but I will say that the earlier that you know what you want your major to be, or even whether you want to be STEM or non-STEM, the better your life is going to be. Because that might mean that you're taking 3 classes versus 2, or a bio-related, or a STEM-related bio class versus a non-STEM-related bio class. And that'll make your life easier or harder depending on the end of that answer. If I had known what my major was going to be immediately, that would have stopped me from taking another math class. And while I do appreciate some good math, it was a lot of work, so that would have been nice to know. Otherwise, just do your research on the majors. Look at all the courses online, see which ones are actually interesting to you, and if they're not interesting to you, then chances are you're not gonna like that major. On that note, if you need to drop a class, please drop that class. I learned very quickly that I was not very into computer science, not very good at it. And I was so afraid of quitting a class. I was like, oh man, I'm such a quitter. In college, there's no such thing as quitting. You're just deciding whether you like something or you don't like something. Don't do this too often. But if you figure out within the first 3 weeks of the class that you're not gonna be any good at it and you have no interest in pursuing this further, then just drop it. Pick up something else if you can, or just do a quarter with 3 classes. It doesn't really matter. Your life does not depend on this and people aren't gonna think less of you. Please don't compare your classes to the classes of others. Ultimately, everyone has different goals, so just because you aren't taking the smartest math class or whatever, does not mean that you're more dumb than everyone else. Especially at a place like UChicago, everyone is really freaking smart, and oftentimes when people are asking about what class you're in, they're not really interested in figuring out how smart you are. They just want to know if you guys can share homework answers. What to bring. So I didn't talk a whole lot about this in general, but don't bring a Canada Goose. Only annoying international students bring a Canada Goose. You can stay warm with a Costco jacket, or a North Face, or an Arctica, or a Spider. Literally any of these brands of jackets will do. It is not necessary to murder foxes and geese for a jacket that you will wear for 4 years and then probably return to your home in California. Not necessary. Oh boy, I'm running out of camera angles. Get my thumb out of there. Now this opinion might be something that is really more for me, and you probably won't hear this as much from anyone else, but I really, really love having a bike on campus. Having a bike means that my commute from anywhere to anywhere is essentially halved. And especially on a really busy day, it's nice to not have to walk anywhere and be obstructed by crowds. Honestly, feel free to join a club or two. Oftentimes, like, that's where you're gonna make all your friends. I'm in way too many clubs, so maybe don't do that. And I can certainly make a video about it later, but these clubs don't even need to be like professional clubs either. Like, don't feel stressed if you don't get into like blue chips. Ultimately, employers are probably just going to be looking to make sure that you are participating in the discussion rather than, you know, just sitting around. It doesn't matter if this club is specifically for consulting or whatever, you know? No problem. If you get into one, that's fantastic, but don't let it determine like your self-worth. Now, if you can't participate in clubs for whatever reason, please, 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 please don't be a house ghost. Go to your house meetings. If you guys are having fun events, do those house events. Because if you're not gonna meet people through clubs, your best bet is to meet the people in your house because they are literally next door to you. Also, please go to your house table at your cafeteria. Please go to your house table. Please go to your house table! Don't be intimidated by the size of the campus either. I think that it took me several weeks to figure out exactly where everything is, and granted I still don't know, but at least I can guesstimate. So in the coming weeks, just try to figure out the cardinal directions. So know that if you walk towards Mansueto or Campus North, you are going north. The east is always the lake, so you got that going for you. Woodlawn, south, are south, and the medical campus is west. The quad is kind of a central point too, and it goes off in cardinal directions. So as long as you kind of can orient yourself based off of that, you'll be in a pretty good spot and you'll be able to quickly figure out where things are. Also, feel free to keep in touch with some of your campus friends. For instance, I'm still hanging out with people from my calculus class, people from my pre-O last year, so you can still very well see these people again in all your classes, especially if you were doing something that relates to your major. In that case, you will for sure see them again. So if you can make friends early, then you'll definitely have some friends later on. Lastly, life. I figured I'd just share something about like what I personally found to be very helpful in terms of my mental health, because you know, being stressed out here is very common. There's really no point to be upset if you didn't get into a program. Yeah, it sucks, like, but chances are it wasn't meant to be, and it'll often open up doors for a new thing. You will find your people, you will get what you want, you just have to wait for it. Of course, if you're feeling overworked, go outside for a run, talk to your friends, leave your study space for a little bit. I know that I've been going very crazy in this room, so I can only imagine someone that's new and doesn't understand how college works yet. That would be very stressful for me as well. Not getting any sleep and sulking about your life is really not the way to go about it. You gotta make a change, do something. Go talk to people who are feeling the exact same way as you. See me under my desk. The next thing is, don't even bother talking about your high school experience to other people. Now, I like to talk about myself, so I can understand why you might want to. However, chances are nobody cares. With all these new opportunities in college, explore some things, figure out who you really are, and granted, I don't know either. But make that your goal. Lastly, don't let other people decide what you think is important. Because if you're trying to decide a major and someone shits on that major for saying it's too easy or not important for your future employment, you can say fuck you. You are going to an awesome school, so it doesn't really matter what you major in, especially when it's a liberal arts school. So do what you want, because ultimately you're gonna have to take a bunch of classes in that subject. Don't let all this gossip decide what you want to do, and just be confident in yourself. Like, college is a really great time to just do whatever you want. If you want to go hang out with your friends instead of going to class, don't do that. You can. And you have all these opportunities, so you might as well take them. If you want to sit on top of a dresser, do it, just don't break it. You just gotta do what makes you happy, because it took me an entire year to figure out just that. And if I'm spending all of my time thinking about what other people think is important, then ultimately, I'm not really gonna have any opinions for myself. Please listen to my advice. I hope this little wealth of knowledge was helpful. I certainly would have really enjoyed it. So I hope in the future you will come to realize something important and also share with other people on the internet. Or not, with your house is good too. I will see you later. I hope you enjoyed this collage of different camera angles. It was very difficult to find them because this room is relatively small. I will see y'all in the next video. Hopefully I get this out fairly quickly, because the longer I wait, the less knowledge will be shared.